you everyone. Happy Open Data Day. And we are on behalf of GODAN, the Global Open Data for Agriculture and Nutrition. I would like to welcome you all to this webinar today, which is a very important webinar on women and digitalization in agriculture, overcoming the data divide. And I want to thank Unique Mappers team and colleagues around the world who have come together to put this important webinar, and all the speakers and all the organizers of this webinar. So on behalf of GODAN, we are very, this is a very important topic that we want to highlight, and we are very happy to have these speakers who will be talking to us on this topic. The Unique Mappers team is a key partner of GODAN. We have been working with Unique Mappers team for some time now on many of these topics, and today's webinar, we hope to have more discussions and more idea sharing from all participants. So we welcome all participants to this webinar, and we will start off this webinar by showing a short introductory video from the GODAN, one of the documentaries that GODAN produced called Open Fields, to set the scene of how open data can help women smallholder farmers around the world. So Kate, I'll hand over to you for showing the video. Thank you.
Absolutely. If you bear with me, I will share the video. This video is part of a series of award-winning documentaries that was filmed several years back, but nevertheless it is still very, very relevant, and it shows how open data and empowering the individual can actually help not just individuals but entire families and entire communities. So if all of our speakers could please turn their microphones and videos off during this, and I will get on with playing the video.
Jina langu naitwa Eunice Bule. Ninafanya na ukulima. Familia yangu tuko watu, ndio hivyo. Sasa hata mtoto kama wa KG1, 2, 3 na wa primary akiregeshwa wakati nikiamka nikianza siku, fagia ndani ya nyumba, nioshe vyombo, ingie kwa shamba nilime, alafu simu yenye niko nayo nilipata mwaka jana. Huwa naitumia wakati nikiwa nataka kupanda mboga fulani.
Bamia huota katika sehemu kavu na za joto kwa kilimo cha umwagiliaji maji. Tayarisha ardhi kwa mkono au kwa plau la trekta. Udongo lazima uvunjwe uwe laini kwa kuoteshea mbegu. Chimba mistari yenye kupishana kiasi ya sentimita 60. Chimba vishimo vya kupanda yenye kupishana kiasi ya sentimita 30. Panda mbegu moja au mbili katika kila kishimo. Ikiwa unatumia kilimo cha kumwagia maji kwa mitaro, panda mbegu thuluthi moja ya juu ya tuta ili kuzuia maji yasituame.
Pia ninaitumia kuelimisha wenzangu kwa ajili ya ukulima, pia na wao wapande mboga. Alafu ndo inakuja hiyo kwa lugha mbili, alafu nachagua Kiswahili. Saja hizo picha 4, unachagua pale unataka usome. Sasa ni wakati wa kulima mboga, twalima. Unakuja hapa kwa mboga, unagusa hapa kwa ndizi. Kama unataka kujua kwa tomato zaitwa tungule, hapa ziliandikwa tungule. Unasoma sasa. Tumeambiwa na mwalimu kuwa kuna, kama huwezi kusoma, kuna ile wa kutusaidia kusoma hapa ndani. Unagusa hapa.
Bamia hukomaa kwa siku 45. Yachume matunda yangali machanga. Yachume kila baada ya siku 3 ili kuzuia yasikomae sana. Tani 2 hadi 4 kwa ekari moja.
Simu imenisaidia kujua kilicho ndani ya simu, kusoma zaidi, na pia imenisaidia na vitu vingine. Ninaenda nauza mauzo mawili na nipeane hiyo fees. Maono yangu, nataka nibadilishe hii nyumba, toa udongo nibadilishe mawe.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sashith. I am Catherine Bailey, and I am Head of Communications with GODAN. I'll be moderating, and Uchechi from Unique Mappers, hello Uchechi, will be joining me and helping to field questions. So if you have any questions, hi, as we're going along, we'll be having 3 presentations today. And after each presentation, then we'll stop for a short while and we'll put questions to our panelists. So if you do have any questions, then please just put them in the chat and we'll get to those after the presentations. So first up, we have Ijeoma. And Ijeoma Nwogu is a member of Unique Mappers Network and a GODAN ambassador in Port Harcourt, Nigeria. Now, Ijeoma is trained in agribusiness and management. She's a researcher in Port Harcourt, training agribusiness individuals running agribusinesses in Port Harcourt. So Ijeoma, if you're there, I will just pass over to you.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm going to speak on the topic that says challenges and opportunities for women in agriculture in Nigeria. I have the outline that goes to introduction. In my outline, I have introduction, agriculture and SDGs, agriculture in Nigeria, women in smallholder farming across, women in fishery, poultry, and agribusiness. I have challenges of women in agriculture in Nigeria, available opportunities for women in agriculture in Nigeria, then conclusion and recommendation. agriculture and SDGs. The agricultural sector is well placed to contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals, also known as the post-2015 Development Agenda, giving the sector's potentials to contribute to increased food security, poverty alleviation, and reduce child mortality through better nutrition, among others. More than any other sector, agriculture does not only address hunger and malnutrition. Agriculture is also a focus of Goal 5, which is geared towards promoting women's rights to land ownership, as it is one of the challenges faced by women in agriculture. Thank you for the slide. Thank you. The next slide, please. Next slide, please. The agricultural sector is well placed to contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals, and also, which is also known as post-2015 Development Agenda, giving the sector's potentials to contribute to increased food security, poverty alleviation, and reduce child mortality through better nutrition, among others. More than any other sector, agriculture does not only address hunger and malnutrition. Next slide, please. Agriculture also focuses on Goal 5, which is geared towards promoting women's rights to land ownership, as it is one of the challenges faced by women in agricultural production. Agriculture is the common thread which holds all the 17 SDGs together. Reaching the SDGs targets will not be possible without a strong and sustainable agriculture with women's involvement. As we all know that agriculture is cut across all the 17 SDGs in Nigeria. So without a sustainable agriculture and women being involved, the SDGs targets is not likely to be met. Next slide, please. As seen in the diagram, in the chart, agriculture cuts across all the 17 SDGs. Next slide, please. Agriculture in Nigeria. Agriculture in Nigeria is made up of 4 sub-activities. We have crop production, livestock, forestry, and fishing. While the Nigerian economy is heavily dependent on oil, agriculture still contributes a significant amount to Nigeria's economy. The National Bureau of Statistics estimates that 25% of the GDP of the Nigerian economy is composed of the agricultural sector, a total value of 4.575 trillion, and 70% of Nigerian labor force is employed in the agricultural sector. Agricultural sector has a greater part to play in the Nigerian economy. Nigeria's economic growth over the last 5 years has been driven by growth in agriculture, communications, telecommunications, and services. Next slide. The agricultural sector in Nigeria is mainly occupied by the production and processing of the following produce. We have cocoa, peanuts, cotton, palm oil, corn, rice, sorghum, and among others. Most of these produce are consumed in Nigeria, and while some of them are being exported. Agriculture in Nigeria contributes 5% of the economic goods exported out of the country, while the other 95% is exported, mainly petroleum. Women in smallholder farming. Although the global food system relies on some of the world's biggest agribusiness. It also depends on some of the smallest trillions of farm of little more hectare in size. And with women making up average of 40% of the agricultural workforce, often working as subsistence farmers or on family farms. Smallholder farmers key role in the resilience of the supply chain. They are involved in processing, packaging, and marketing and distribution of agricultural farm produce. Globally, 75% of the world's food is generated from not just 12 plants and 5 animal species. Hence, the fact that smallholder farming tends to keep many rustic and climate-resilient plant varieties and animals alive has promoted the biodiversity that mitigates the food system in Nigeria. Next slide, please. With such representation of women in smallholder agriculture who contribute to the half of up to the half of these farmers to ensure that they can live successful, productive life is critical to promoting biodiversity and reducing poverty and hunger. However, women smallholder farmers do not always have access to the same resources as men. That is some of the challenges women face in agriculture. One factor limiting the ability to expand farms and improve yields is also the ability to borrow money. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Women in fishery. Next slide, please. Hello, can you hear me? Women in fishery. Fishers are not only men. Women are also included in fish farming. Millions of women around the world, whether paid or unpaid, are also in the fishery sector. Although women are mainly involved in the task that come before or after the fish are being hauled out of water. They may also be there for catch or the harvest, even selling of the fishes. Next slide. At the artisanal level, their preparation work includes making and mending nets, baskets and pots, baiting hooks, and providing services to the fishing boats. They practice their own fishing, both for commercial and subsistence purposes, often from canoes in areas close to their community. Next slide. Next slide, please. Women in poultry in Nigeria. In Nigeria, not only men are involved or engaged in poultry farming. Women also have important roles which they play in animal production. These roles may vary according to the types of animal being kept, type of production, and other economic and cultural constraints. Next slide, please. Women in agribusiness. According to the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, women account for 75% of the farming population in Nigeria, working as farm managers, suppliers of labor. In addition to that, women also participate in weeding, harvesting, and on-farm processing. They also engage in rural marketing to the percentage of 90%. The agricultural sector in Africa is experiencing a drastic transformation following the influx of women in the sector. As such, African women are playing big roles in shaping the growth of agriculture in the continent. Next slide, please. Now we are going over to the challenges for women in agriculture. There are many challenges that women face in agriculture. We are having increasing space of insecurity and civil unrest affecting farmers. There we have regular farmers and herdsmen crisis. Kidnapping and banditry are affecting women and children. Displacement from homes by insurgents, growing refugee population in many states in Nigeria. Number two, we have poor capacity to utilize modern technology, lack of access to credit facilities, lack of social amenities, infrastructure for rural women farmers, which includes poor road infrastructure to market their farm produce, post-harvest losses due to inadequate storage facilities. We also have cultural/religious restrictions, making land resources inaccessible to women. We have poor access to education and training on basic farming practices. Women are encountering diverse challenges in carrying out their agricultural activities in Nigeria. They are being restricted from owning the land as one of the cultural and religious distinct affecting them in Nigeria. They don't have access to credit facilities. They are not also being trained on the basic management practices, among others. Next slide, please. There are diverse opportunities for women in agriculture in Nigeria. Women play significant roles in increased crop, livestock, fisheries production, and ensure family nutrition as well as overall food security for the nation. With women involvement in agriculture, there will be an increase in the production of livestock, fishes, crops, and other agricultural produces. Women possess great skills and resilience for economic growth and social security of any nation. Increased food production, food sufficiency, and sustained reduction of poverty and malnutrition can be facilitated by women. With women involvement in agriculture, there will be sufficiency in food production, and there will be a reduction in poverty and malnutrition. Women farmers remain key resource persons to sufficiently feed the nations if we equip them with necessary skills and training. There's a saying that says that when a woman is being trained, that the nation is secured. So with the trainings, women are being trained in agriculture, they will go a long way in saving the nation. Next slide, please. Finally, we have the conclusion. Women's farmers equipped with the right knowledge and support systems can contribute to increasing the sustainability of agriculture, improving nutrition and reducing food loss and waste. There is an adequate need. There is an adequate need to train women with the support systems with which they need to increase. When they are being trained, they will improve the nutrition and reduce food loss. Recommendation: adequate security should be provided for women farmers against rape, kidnapping, banditry, and herdsmen attack. There is need for security for rural women farmers against rape, banditry, and all these herdsmen crises going on in the country. There is need for improved road infrastructures for rural women to market their produce. They are facing to cope the challenge of inaccessibility to markets. So there is need for improved road facilities. Women should be educated and trained on basic farm management practices. There should be training for women on the basic management practices, how to go about their farm activities using the modern and the basic management practices so that they will also have improved and increased their productivity. There is need for improved access to credit facilities for women due to lack of access for women for loans and grants to facilitate their farms. That is one of the challenges they're facing. So there is need, there should be access for women, there should be provisions for women that will grant them access to loans and all these credit facilities to improve their farms. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Ijoma. That was an absolutely fascinating insight into the specific challenges for women in East African agriculture. I know that there are a couple of questions. So Uchechi, if I can pass over to you, I know you have at least one or two questions for Ijoma.
Yes, thank you. Ijoma, thank you for that presentation. Very interesting. So Dr. Bagwan Asewa has some questions for you. So the first one is, are you aware about the cotton species grown in Nigeria? And what soil types do we have in Nigeria?
Thank you very much for the question. For the species of cotton grown in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Okay, there are many species, though I cannot really put up the types for now.
Oh, okay. Maybe I can chip in, and I think from my own little research, I found out that we have the Gossypium species, and there are 4 variants of that. And in terms of the soil types, we have 4 classifications of the soil types in Nigeria. In the north, we have the sandy soils, and then we have the lateral soils in the interior zone, and also the forest soils and the alluvial soils. So Nigeria has quite a wide variation of soil types, and that's why we have very different crops that are grown in Nigeria. I hope that kind of answers the question you were asking, Dr. Asewa. Back to you, Ijoma. The second question he has, how many girls are taking agric education? Are you aware about the proportion of girls that are into agric education in Nigeria?
Thank you for the question. According to the research, there are about 40% of girls engaged in agribusiness, right? So that's the question.
No, but who are taking agric in schools?
Okay,
maybe at the secondary level or at the tertiary level.
Okay. There are up to 70% of girls involved in agric education in schools.
Okay. You also have a question from Mr. Sunday. He says, what are your specific experiences, especially the field experience with women in farming? You mentioned, yeah. Did you hear the question?
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I said, what's your field experience? Because from your bio, you mentioned that you work with people in agribusinesses. So based on your experience, what are their challenges?
Okay, thank you very much. From the experience I've gotten so far in my field work with agribusiness women, men and women, and women specifically across Nigeria. They are being faced with, most importantly, access to ownership of farmland. For instance, in oil palm production, in some states like Enugu, Kogi, Cross River, and Akwa Ibom State in Nigeria, they have faced this challenge of not being allowed to own a farmland, except the ones that are given to them by their husbands. So that is one of the basic challenges that women face in Nigeria. Then secondly, they lack all these, they lack credit facilities because of lack of fund to carry out their farm activities. The little available land that they have to work on. They lack finances to help them to increase their yield in their farm activities. They also lack the trainings, the basic trainings and the information they need. And they also lack technology. In terms of knowledge, they're also not equipped with the technology, the adequate technology they need to make researches and know and acquire some knowledges they need in their farm activities. For instance, most of the women are not techno savvy. Most of the women are not exposed to internet. They don't know how to go online and get information on, about farming and other stuffs. Thank you.
Yeah. A final question from Mr. Sunday. These challenges and opportunities, do you think they have regional peculiarities? So, for instance, in the north, do you think that the challenges and opportunities vary when you compare it to southern Nigeria?
Thank you. Their opportunities may differ, but generally in Nigeria, when women are being given opportunity for full involvement in agriculture, they will put up their best. As women are very hardworking, they will put up their best in increasing crop productivity and yield. So the difference is not that much elapsed, because generally women remain the key resource persons to sufficiently feed the nation, despite the area or region of where they are based. Thank you.
Yeah. One last question from me before we release you. You mentioned a lot of challenges. One, you talked about the insecurity, you've talked about technology, you've talked about training, women's land rights. Which do you think should form a priority area for policy?
Nigeria, there is this increased rate of insecurity. Yes, insecurity is a very big challenge in Nigeria. When women are not secure, when they are not protected, they won't have access. They wouldn't have access to, engage in their farm activities. Like most of them are being attacked in their farms by all these herdsmen. Most of them are being kidnapped. They are being displaced from their homes and all these crises in Nigeria. So that one is a very paramount challenge for women in Nigeria, in Nigerian agriculture. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Last thing, so how do you think the government can solve this problem for women? Because you mentioned that women contribute a significant proportion in the agriculture sector. You also mentioned that the insecurity is affecting their role in food production. So if we think about it, then that means that it's going to affect food security in Nigeria. So do you have any recommendation on how the government can address this issue?
Yes, I will recommend that there should be adequate security provided for women against rape, in the sense that there should be security agents placed around the rural areas to make sure that women are not being attacked, are safe whenever they go out to carry out their farming activity. There should be peace and order. Any crisis, the government should make sure that there are no all these interstate crises, because most of them are being caused by this interstate crisis, which results to when women go out to their farms, they are being attacked and all those stuff. There should be peace and order in the different communities, and government should also try to make sure that there are security agents positioned at different corners to make sure that women are being protected. Thank you.
Okay, there's one more question from Mr. Sunday. Said, what opportunities do GODAN and Unique Mappers offer to women in farming in Nigeria? Oh, I think that should be for me, not for you. So it's okay. I think I would answer that question at the towards the end of our discussion today. So thank you very much, Ijoma, once again for your presentation and for coming on board to discuss this very important topic. So back to you, Kate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chechi. So we have Timipre Nkwocha with us now, and Timipre is going to talk about bridging the gender gap with sustainable agriculture and food security. Timipre is a researcher in environmental management at the University of Port Harcourt, and she specialises, and here it becomes very interesting for us, geospatial technology for food security. Okay, Timipre, are you all set? Are you all set?
Yes, I am.
Fantastic. I'll pass over to you then.
Okay, good day, everyone. I'm going to be talking about bridging the gender gap for sustainable agriculture and food security. My name, once again, is Timipre Nkwocha, and I'm very delighted to be on this panel session right now. Okay, in the course of this discussion, I'm going to be looking at the SDG targets for gender equality and zero hunger, gender issues in land rights for sustainable agriculture. I will also be talking about the gender divide in agribusiness. And then finally, I'll be looking at the geospatial and open data empowerment for gender inclusive sustainable agriculture. Now let's start with food security. Food security can be said to have been attained when sustainable agriculture is practiced consistently enough to provide people with safe and nutritious food. When food is safe, it is nutritious and it is available, they have access to it, they can utilize it, and then there's stability of that availability, then we can say that food security has been attained in our nation or in our continent. Now, there is a major difference between the way men and women access resources when it comes to agriculture. Women mostly are underrepresented in the distribution of land and capital. When it comes to land and capital for agricultural purposes, women are usually underrepresented in Nigeria. And to bridge the gap, the gender gap for sustainable agriculture, certain changes in related policies and land reforms are inevitable. We need more women associations to come up and help in bridging the gap that exists in some important factors such as information. Most times the women do not know what to do. They don't know how to go about what they know how to do. And so there's a whole lot of gap in information that the associations that these women can form will help cover. Now let's look at the SDG targets for gender equality and zero hunger. The goal 5 of the SDG is to achieve gender equality and empower all women. Empowering women and girls is giving them the available or the needed tools for agriculture. And we're talking about food security, we're talking about agriculture. And so we're looking at the goal 5 as related to agriculture. How do we empower women to have safe farms? How do we empower women to do more agribusinesses? How do we empower women to go about their farming activities easily? Now, gender equality is not just a fundamental right, but it is a necessary foundation for a peaceful and prosperous, sustainable world. Now, what are the targets in the goal 5 that are related to agriculture and food security? We have one of the targets saying to undertake reforms to give women equal rights to economic resources, as well as access to ownership and control over land and other forms of property. Now, this particular target, if achieved, will help a whole lot of women in Nigeria and in Africa and all over the world to be able to participate more in sustaining agriculture and food security. Now, another target is to enhance the use of enabling technology, in particular information and communication technology, to promote the empowerment of women. This target also would help to build the technological know-how of women and help them to sustain agriculture and promote food security in the nation and in the continent. The next target, we have 3 targets that are really related to agricultural empowerment. And the last one is saying adopt and strengthen sound policies and enforceable legislation for the promotion of gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls at all levels. We cannot move forward. We cannot bridge the gap we cannot bridge the gender gap without adopting and strengthening sound policies and enforcing these policies to promote the empowerment of women and girls. Now let's go to goal 2. Goal 2 is zero hunger, end hunger, zero hunger. Now we need to end hunger in order to achieve food security. We need to provide improved nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture under this particular goal. A profound change of the global food and agriculture system is needed to nourish today's 795 million hungry, an additional 2 billion increase in global population expected by 2050. The men alone cannot do this. We also need the women to be involved in this achievement. We need the women to be involved in promoting more sustainable agricultural practices. We need the women to be involved in agribusinesses. We need the women to be involved in agri-tech. We need the women to be using the open data and geospatial technologies that are available. We need more women involved in ending hunger in our nation and in our continent. Now, what are the targets that are related to agriculture and food security? Target 2.1 says universal access to safe and nutritious food. And then we have about 5 targets there. The last one says maintain the genetic diversity in food production. Now let's look at gender issues in agricultural practices in Nigeria. The rural woman plays an essential role in the 4 pillars that are related to food security. The 4 pillars in food security are availability, accessibility, utilization, and stability. However, whenever policies are being made, whenever opportunities are provided for women in agriculture, unfortunately, the rural women are being sidelined. And this is a very serious gender issue in the agricultural practice in Nigeria. There is a gender gap as regards access to certain resources such as land, energy, technology, loans, pesticides. We can look at the statistics on the slide. It shows that for Nigeria, the share of agricultural labor is just 37% that belongs to women. So the female share of agricultural labor for Nigeria alone is just 37%. And for other African countries like Uganda, we have 56, 52 for Tanzania, 52 for Malawi, 37 for Nigeria, 29 for Ethiopia. So far, Niger has the lowest representation. Now let's look at the constraints of women in agriculture. What are the kind of constraints that they face? According to FAO, if women had the same opportunities in terms of access to productive resources, such as seeds, fertilizers, tools, loans, etc., as men, they could increase their yields by 20 to 30%. Now we see that 69.6% of women in agriculture lack technological know-how. We also see that 65% of women, by this report from The Guardian, it shows that inadequate finances, these women are going through the challenge of inadequate finances, and then there's lack of land ownership rights for women. The women have to depend on their husbands to be able to farm. They have to depend on relatives to be able to farm. They cannot own lands on their own except they have to buy. But when it comes to the inheritance policy, where a land is given over to the next generation, it is usually for the men and not the women. And then there's gender inequality problem for women in agriculture. And then high rate of illiteracy, religious and cultural belief, lack of means of implementation, inadequate outputs. All these are challenges that women are facing in agriculture. Now let's look at gender issues in land rights for agriculture. We see that women are responsible for 70 to 80% of all agricultural labor in Nigeria. And according to federal and state law, they have the right to hold and inherit land. But unfortunately, they do not have so much of this land by inheritance. 98.8% have their lands in their husband's name. And then in some other places, you see that some of them can purchase land, but they still involve their husbands, or they go through male relatives or pay land rates, and then they still provide material things. Only 10% of landowners in Nigeria are women. This discrepancy is also present elsewhere in Africa and around the world. These are the gender issues. These are the gaps that need to be bridged if food security must be attained. And if sustainable agriculture should be promoted, then the gender gap needs to be closed up. Now, when we talk about the gender divide in agribusiness, the issue of low literacy level, hindering most women from having access to loans and even incentives. There are some times over here in Nigeria where things are free of charge and you're supposed to have access to them. But because of ignorance, people are not even making any move to get those things. Or when they see the access to it, they want to even pay for it because they do not believe that these things are available for free for them. The number of women practicing mechanized farming is still very low down here in Nigeria, and it should be encouraged by education and empowerment. When the men help their wives to access loans, when they help their wives to maintain their financial, to increase financial literacy, and then to help them maintain their financial tools for farming, they help in bridging the gender gap in agriculture and food security. So it takes the whole society. It takes both the male and the female. We have men in agriculture, we have women in agriculture, but we're saying that the women are being underrepresented and we need more women to join agriculture. And in agribusinesses, they need the agri-tech knowledge, and most of them do not have the literacy level that will help them to attain this knowledge, to operate the technologies that are available for agri-tech. And that's why some organizations that are producing apps and certain other tools, tech tools that can help women in the rural areas who do not understand certain kinds of English that we speak to be able to understand and use those apps are really doing well. And we need more of such to be able to close the gender divide in agro businesses. Now let's look at geospatial and open data empowerment for gender inclusive agriculture. Open data mapping provides geospatial databases, maps, and geoinformation that are freely accessible and available globally. That's why it is open data. But the women need to know how to operate their phones. They need to know how to go online. They need to know where to access these maps and then the kind of data that will help them monitor crop yield and get other information concerning how to grow their crops and how to access markets where they can send their crops to for sale. Now, open data provides opportunity for everyone to freely share, use, and reuse data about land use, farmlands, land rights, and essentially anything that is mapped on the Earth's surface. For example, areas that are liable to erosion can be mapped, and then these places can be put on a vulnerability map for women to know that these areas are liable to serious gully erosion or whatsoever kind of erosion, so that they do farm outside those kind of places and do not incur loss. And then for flood, we can map places that are vulnerable to flood so that farmers can prepare, and then they know that these areas are flood-prone areas. And so we shouldn't farm here, or if we are going to farm here, there is a time and season for farming there, like floodplains for rice cultivation. Now, farmers know that when is this particular time we can cultivate rice, and we need to harvest before the flood comes. So that's the reason why they need the maps. That's the reason why geospatial technology is very important, and open data will really help women and men too to be able to access the kind of information that will help them to monitor their crop growth and crop yield. With open data mapping, we're able to know what is where and how, when, as well as, and also who owns what. For the land rights, we can know this property belongs to this person, this boundary belongs to this person, and all of that. In conclusion, including women in decision-making for agricultural policies would help bridge the gender gap in agriculture. Policies should not just be made without including the people that are affected. The women should be brought to the table too, to make those decisions that are going to favor their agricultural practices. And then financial literacy should be promoted to help women access more loans and incentives for agro-businesses. Development of rural areas should be encouraged because the rate of migration is also decreasing the number of people who are involved in farming. Since there are more lands in the rural areas and more farmers there, we should encourage more development in the rural areas, give them access to more infrastructures that will help them live comfortably there and farm instead of migrating to the urban areas to go and look for greener pastures that are not agriculture. And lastly, grassroots training of rural farmers on data sharing technology and application of open data in understanding crop yield and other parameters is highly recommended. Thank you.
Thank you, Timipre. That was absolutely fascinating. I'm going to pass quickly over to Uchechi. I believe there's one or two questions that she has to ask you.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks,
Thank you,
Adrian.
Timipre, for that enlightening presentation. You do have a couple of questions, but I'll try to summarize them for want of time. The first one is from Clara, and she's asking what is being done to enable women to own land in Nigeria. So maybe you can take that first before we move on to the next question.
Hello, Chechi.
Yeah.
Okay, can I go on to answer?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you for that question. There are policies already for Nigeria. In Nigeria, yeah, there are policies that can enable a woman to have the rights to a land. But the problem is with the implementation of the policies. So if you're asking what is being done, policies have already been made to give women access to land ownership. But it is about the implementation. That's where the problem is. So what I will say is we need more enforcement of this policies, more awareness being created amongst women in rural areas and everywhere that they have the right to own land. And I recently, a court in Akwa Ibom State, I think this month or last month, ruled in favor of a woman who was going to be deprived of her land because she's a woman. and they ruled in favor of her. The land was given to us. So the policies are already there, but we need to know our rights so that we can fight for them. So I'll say awareness, we need to increase awareness amongst women, and then we need to implement these policies. Thank you.
Thank you. So I guess that kind of answers the second part of that question, because she was also asking whether it's legal restriction or custom. I think most of the issues in Nigeria when it comes to land rights are cultural. And,
yes,
and that's because a lot of women do not even know about their rights, I guess. So I thanks for that comment, because by law, women should own land, but a lot of people abuse the law and think that women do not have the right to own land. The second question is from Uche Chukwu, and it's asking how would government educate farmers in remote areas, and also interested in knowing how they will communicate with the local farmers who cannot speak English.
Okay, thank you. The government has an arm in the Ministry of Agriculture that is called Agricultural Extension Services. Now that is their own duty. The agricultural extension officers are the ones who go down to the grassroots to communicate with farmers and then make them unlearn and relearn and learn new things, and then create awareness on certain incentives, government incentives that are available. So if you're asking how the government will be able to communicate with farmers at the grassroots level, they go through the agricultural extension officers. So I would say that more funding should be put into agricultural extension offices, services by the government, to be able to enable them reach down to the most rural of places, so that they can reach every farmer. And another way is to look beyond the government. Let's look at the non-governmental organizations like GODAN. Let's look at other organizations that are available that are agriculturally related. Those organizations also have a role to play, because if we depend on only the government, then we're not going to achieve so much. So all these people, and then you and I, we have parents, we have relations that are also in the rural places that are practicing farming. We could create awareness and communicate with them things that are taking place in the agricultural sector, innovations and others. So the agricultural extension services can be used by the government to communicate with farmers at the grassroots level. Thank you.
Yeah, another question, Hakim is asking, are you aware of how the government includes persons living with disabilities in the agri sector?
Well, there are areas in the government, there is a ministry that covers persons living with disability, and the SDG goals are inclusive. They emphasize on inclusion of both people living with disabilities, and then there's no discrimination. So the government does that, yes. There are usually organizations or associations that are formed by people living with disability. I think being part of an organization gives you more platforms and gives you more access to opportunities that are available from the government. So the government has provision for people who are living with disability to be part of whatever they are doing. They do have that provision, but you need to be on the right platform so that you can get that information. So for people living with disability, I encourage them to be part of organizations that can help give them a voice. That's what I'll say. Thank you.
The last question is, does credit trickle down to local farmers in Nigeria? Credit facilities by government. Credit facilities by government. Does it trickle down to local farmers?
Yes, it does. But the problem still remains ignorance and low literacy level. It does. Because when you're looking for the people who are really practicing agriculture and farming in Nigeria, you get them in the rural areas, not in the urban areas. Some persons take the loans in the urban areas and may not really do the work. but those in the rural areas are doing the work. That is their means of survival, agriculture. That's how they live. So this government loans and access to credit facilities, incentives, and all of that are usually targeted at these people. But the problem remains ignorance and low literacy level. So that's why we need to tackle that problem first. We need to be able to educate more rural farmers on their rights and the opportunities and the access they have to this credit facilities from the government. And then we need to be able to teach them how to take accounts on their farm, how to keep their books, how to make sure they are balancing their accounts and all of that, so that when the loans are available, they will be able to be responsible enough. They will be qualified to access those loans. So the answer is yes, the government targets the rural people for credit facilities, but the problem is, are they qualified to get these facilities?
Thank you very much for that. I think that's a great way to end. So qualifications of local farmers. Back to you, Kate.
Thank you. So we've looked at the importance of empowering women in agriculture and also the crucial role of data and capacity development. But now we are going to look at the role of open data development in alleviating food poverty. So we've got with us Dr. Sushith Anand, who is Chief Scientist at GODAN. Dr. Anand is an internationally recognized expert in geospatial science, and among very many other activities, co-founded Geo for All, which is an initiative that's intended to make geospatial training and digital economy opportunities available to all. I'll just pass over, if you're ready, to Sushith.
Thank you very much, Kate, and thank you for both the speakers as well. It was really a lot of, I learned a lot of information from both of your presentations, and I want to thank you both for taking the time to come today and presenting your work with all of us today. So I want to talk about, from a GODAN perspective, on how we aim to achieve zero hunger through open data development. And as you all know, hunger is directly relevant to poverty as well. So if you want to achieve zero hunger, we have to tackle, we have to aim for zero poverty as well. And innovation is we believe is a very important aspect in this. And for those of you who do not know about the GODAN, Global Open Data for Agriculture and Nutrition, we are a rapidly growing network of over 1,000 organizations, from national governments, non-governmental organizations, international and private sector organizations. And GODAN aims to impact the lives of at least 12 million smallholder farmers internationally by implementing innovations that help achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goal 2 on ending global hunger, achieving global food security, and improving nutrition and sustainable agriculture by 2030. So in order to do that, we have to measure and keep track of the progress. And this is very important, measuring progress through the Sustainable Development Goals. And as we heard from the two speakers previously as well, how to, we have to, all these is very important to, not only have aims, but to measure the progress of all the aims as well. So the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which are targets for global development and adopted in around September 2013, set to be achieved by 2030. And all countries of the world have agreed to work towards achieving these goals. And the Sdg Tracker is a really good resources which presents data across all available indicators from our World in Data database, using official statistics from the UN and other international organizations. It's a free open access publications that track global progress towards the SDGs and allows people around the world to hold their governments accountable to achieving the agreed goals. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals are defined in the list of 169 SDG targets. Progress towards these targets is agreed to be tracked by 232 unique indicators. It's important to keep this up to date with the most recent data and SDG developments through to the end of 2030 agenda. And for many indicators, data is available, but major data gaps still remain. And as you can see, we have to, the links from zero for our aim for zero hunger, it links to all the other SDGs as well. So, as mentioned, it's even today, around 800 million people go hungry every day. And nutrition is a growing global problem which no longer can be ignored. Figures from the Global Nutrition Report in 2018 show that around 22% of children globally, which is equal to around 150 million, are stunted due to malnutrition. With a growing population comes an ever-increasing demand for food produce, and GODAN believes that current practices are failing to accommodate the growing need for good quality, nutritious food and the challenges of increased supply and demand. A profound shift in the global food and agriculture system is needed if you are to rise to these challenges and achieve the SDG goal of zero hunger and malnutrition by 2030. The world's estimated 570 million smallholder farmers provide over 80% of the food consumed in large part of the developing world and contribute significantly to the poverty reduction and food security, according to a report from IFAD in 2013. But it's a sad fact that smallholder farmers do not compete on equitable terms in local, regional, or global markets. Although they are poor, they play an essential role in the economic life of most developing countries. Despite the technological advancements in the last few decades, there is still a digital divide in the agriculture sector. Smallholder farmers do not have the same access to information and analytics that large industries and businesses have. The digital divide is greater in developing economies, but more significant when it comes to women in these countries. Women are the face of smallholder farming and the workforce of food production in the developing world. Women constitute 60 to 80% of smallholder farmers in the developing countries and produce 70 to 80% of food in African countries. Despite their significance in the drive towards zero hunger, their rights are not well recognized or respected in many countries. Achieving a world without hunger would be far-fetched without equal land rights and improved digital agriculture opportunities for women smallholder farmers. There is an urgent need for expanding capacity development opportunities at the local level by providing necessary knowledge, tools, and skills so that smallholder farmers who are usually poor can also take advantage of the available open data and digital opportunities to improve their farming systems and escape poverty for their families. Globally, less than 15% of all landholders are women, according to a study from FAO in 2018. And there is evidence that women are significantly disadvantaged relative to men with regard to their land rights. Having equal access to land rights can afford women the necessary collateral to access credit and for capital investments. This is very important for accessing economic inputs, buying like farming tools, for example, water pumps, all these things, credit facilities, having access to credit facilities is very important. Closing the gender gap in rights and protection of land to land assets is ensuring that women are empowered to scale agricultural production and reap the gains from sustainable farming practices. Empowering women farmers with the same rights and opportunities to productive resources as men is increasing their agency and capacity to invest in their farms. Scaling this globally could increase the farm yields by 20 to 30%, thereby lifting 100 to 150 million people out of hunger, and raise the total agricultural output in developing countries by 2.5 to 4%, according to a FAO report in 2012. So this is a significant number. If you want to lift 150 to around 100 million people out of hunger, this is one way to do that. And open data is helping level the playing field for women smallholder farmers by addressing the inequalities of the world related to land registration. And a lot of work still need to be done to rescale, but there are some bright examples which are encouraging. In Rwanda, for example, a nationwide digital-based registry has secured rights for 11 million parcels of land for many smallholder farmers, many of them women. The open data available in the land registry highlights the fact that a higher number of women hold real rights on land compared to men now in Rwanda. This is transformational for Rwanda. Before 1994, women had no rights to inherit land in Rwanda. Now, not only is open data allowing them to secure rights to land, but now women can leverage this asset to get involved with new commercial ventures, investing and enhancing their properties or building rural enterprises. So it's critical that open data and digital technologies contribute in all ways possible to sustainable food production to help achieve zero hunger for all aim. How can we empower local smallholder farmers to improve their livelihoods? How can we ensure that ownership rights do not accrue to the intermediaries that invest in databases, but to the persons who provide or use data, specifically smallholder women farmers? What leadership models do we need to look at to promote equity-based governance models? Can inter-organizational open data charters, international treaties, national model laws and policies, or a social certification scheme for open data be part of the solution? What are the critical roles and responsibilities that must be taken care of to raise awareness and build the needed capacity to resolve open data ownership challenges? Democratizing access to knowledge and insights from satellites to remote sensing instruments enhances sustainable agricultural practices by minimizing use of costly inputs, enhancing better use of natural resources, and better, less wasteful logistical connection to food value chains. When farmers have access to these sources of digital data, they are able to connect to local and global market spaces and knowledge acquisition towards a thriving and sustainable livelihoods. Open data for agriculture and nutrition communities are creating spaces to manage shared resources or services that enable harnessing digital technologies to achieve food security locally and globally. These open data communities are collaborative and transdisciplinary. This leadership is reshaping how we can view sustainable food systems around the world and will continue to become more critical as global population increase, especially in the emerging countries, and demands on our planet's natural resources rise. Empowerment of women not only empower individuals, increasing their earnings, but will serve to empower families and entire farming communities. And partnership is a key factor for effectuating that change. So I want to thank the millions of smallholder farmers from all over the world for their contributions to Zero Hunger. And from GODAN, we are very happy to support this initiative that brought together the Unique Mappers Network colleagues from Nigeria on their work as well. So thank you very much, everyone.
Uchechi, I know that you have several questions there for Sushit. Thank you, Sushit, for that really insightful presentation, but I'll pass over to Uchechi for the questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Suchit, for the amazing presentation. Data. When we talk about Africa and developing world, we have to keep talking about the data gaps that exist. So Mr. Sunday has a question for you. Do you think that participatory GIS and open data collection can actually help to bridge the gender divide in agricultural digitalization?
Thank you for the question, and thank you everyone for participating. And I think, again, this is very important that, as I mentioned, democratization of knowledge and capacity development is very important. And, there are a lot of challenges, if you look at, when I show the SDG aims, even if you look at education aims, in the developing world, how many students have access to, education facility, for education, even today, lot of students don't have access to. So there are so many questions that we need to work as a global community. Now, how do we ensure that all students everywhere have access to education? And digital technologies are a really important way for us to help lower the barriers for education, in my humble opinion. So that's why it's really important that at the local level, at the national level, at the global level, we start thinking about how we can harness and make use of these digital technologies to build capacities, empower, provide educational opportunities at the local level, getting from, so, and again, participatory GIS, is a really important, as we saw in some of these presentations before as well, GIS plays a very important role in agriculture and for for farmers. So if you want smallholder farmers to also benefit from these amazing technologies, but if they are not, there is no use of all this technology if it's not accessible for the smallholder farmers. If you want to make sure they also improve their livelihoods. And for GODAN perspective, we are working in two aims. One is on our zero hunger aim, but also very important, we want to make sure the livelihoods of smallholder farmers are increased, because that is very key. And to make that possible, we want to make sure we provide capacity development at the local level. So all these technologies, all these open data, all these amazing developments will reach the smallholder farmers to help them increase their livelihoods and income. So that's why participatory GIS, I think, plays a really important role in helping build up the capacity at the local level, so everybody benefits from all these technological developments. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So I think that gives a very good introduction to the next question. So what are the potential solutions to the death of open data, especially for women and vulnerable groups in the developing world?
So what are the opportunities for open data? So open data, one, for example, in the agriculture sector, let me give one example. For example, for a smallholder farmer, some of the most important data is, for example, climate data, weather data. This is so critical. And if this information is not available, and local weather data is so critical for any smallholder farmer, anywhere in the developing world or developed world. So currently, this data is not accessible for smallholder farmers in the developing world. And open data, that's why we want to make sure not only the data is available, but the smallholder farmers in the developing world, they have the capacity development, the tools, the connectivity is very important. The cost comes down, so that for example, mobile phone is a really good example of how it has revolutionized the agriculture sector. It basically helps provide that the kind of opportunities that was not possible to think about even like 10 years back. So, but how do we make sure that, even if you have mobile phones, how do you make sure the costs are low? For example, for example, in many of the rural areas in the developing world, even today, there is, no access to internet. So this is we have to look at some of the ground level issues as well. So how do you? So that's why we have to. It's not only, we have to bring together governments, NGOs, private sector, everyone to work together, because it's a global issue of, if you want to aim for zero hunger, we have to work collaboratively across the world and bring together everyone, because there are so many kind of areas that we want to build upon. And that's why one of the slides I put all the SDG aims, we want to not only look into the links, but also how do you make sure we can measure and track progress. This is very important. So every year we want to make progress. So for example, 5 years back, how many smallholder farmers had access to digital technologies. In next 5 years, how many will have. So this is why having that open data perspective is very important. So we can keep track and we can see the progress, and we can see which areas are lagging behind, and then make sure as a global communities, we can work together to make that possible. Thank you.
The last question is, you talked about us working together, us collaborating. How can we create these partnerships? Because we know that there are a lot of organizations that are working on some of these issues, but you find out that they are scattered, they are in different locations. So how can we forge these partnerships so that, since we all have one goal, right? We all have one goal. So how do we come together?
Yes, I think that's a very good question. And in fact, the whole purpose of GODAN is actually that, we bring together, the whole idea is, we have to work globally, but also locally and regionally as well to then, GODAN, if you have a big aim like, the zero hunger aim, it helps us to mobilize people working from all different sectors, so that's why, we have to work with, bring together governments, the private sector, the farming communities, the farmer associations, the universities, so I think one of the things which I always, for me, is very important is how do we ensure we work with, because if you think about it, the universities are a very important part of this zero hunger aim, for how to achieve zero hunger aim. And, because we can make we have a global network of universities who can provide the capacity development resources to help us achieve that. So we are very keen to look into all these sectors, and it's also very multidisciplinary. Even though it's agriculture, but if you think about it, it's from remote sense data to genomics. It's so multidisciplinary. We want expertise from all different fields to come together, share ideas, and I will welcome every one of you to join the GODAN Capacity Development Working Group. It's free and open to everyone. So you can just maybe we'll send the link in the chat window, so you can just join the Capacity Development Working Group. And we have over 3,000 policymakers, key decision makers, and university researchers from all over the world who have joined and sharing their ideas. Peer learning is very important, so we share good practices from around the world, because that's very important for all of us to learn. For example, GODAN has been working on this success stories. The main aim of these success stories is to look into best practice examples that we can learn from all over the world. Maybe there's an example from, for example, in Nepal, maybe somebody was, some farming organization working in innovative technologies. So we want to make sure it doesn't matter where the innovations come from. We can all learn and share, share and learn from all these different innovations happening across the world. And the only way to do that is, we connect and bring together the global community. And that's why, for example, our capacity development working group has been really successful because it brings together the global community to share and learn from each other. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was very enlightening. Back to you, Kate.
Thank you, Sushita, and thank you, Chechi. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Now, we have a follow-up event on Monday at the same time, 11 o'clock UTC and 12 o'clock West African time. I have dropped a link into the chat comments. I will also send out a link to everybody who joined today. If you do wish to join them, please just sign up for that. And we hope that we can welcome you back again on Monday. So thank you very much. And I guess we'll convene again very soon, if not on Monday. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Bye for now. Bye. Thank you.